She was a very complicated woman who was also...
She turned me into a wild beast.
We're going to be looking at some pieces from Louise Bourgeois, who had such a rich and incredible story. Before I begin with those artworks, I must reference some background of Louise in order for us to begin to understand such a complicated woman and the versatility of her work. Her work was autobiographical, and it'd be an injustice to her oeuvre to not mention it. She was born in France in 1911 and died at the age of 98 in New York. She lived through the most critical changes in modern art history while living in two different central hubs of the art scene. She was born right before the start of World War I and started to really pursue art in the 1930s, after the death of her mom while still in France. Prior, she had helped with the family business of tapestry repair, which required some artistic skills, and she studied mathematics in school, which contributed to her very analytical and anxious behavior, like myself. Overwhelmed by her mother's death, she turned to art, which liberated her from her depressive state. She was able to study art in Paris before moving to New York in 1938, right before the start of World War II. Art was a way for her to distance herself from her fears and resentments from her childhood. Rather than being influenced by the world, she was influenced by memories that she had. Creating art was her way of releasing those memories she felt imprisoned by for so many years. With all this said, the two pieces that we'll be looking at today will be Maman, which is a sculpture, and her Photogravure of Femmes Maisons from 1984. Both are loaded with positive and negative associations that Louise was imprisoned by, memories from her past, and struggles that she was currently facing. And we'll see from both of these that she was able to externalize them and release them. The first piece we will look at is Maman, presented in 1999. The title Maman is French for mom. As you can see, it's a gigantic sculpture of a spider made of stainless steel, bronze, and marble. It stands at over 30 feet high and 33 feet wide, weighing over 4 tons. That's 8,064 pounds. It's insanely huge and insanely heavy. It can actually be deconstructed and re-put back together. As you can see, it's very realistic looking. It's not abstract in any sense. However, it is an expression of Louise's fondness of her mother. As a child, she was intimidated by her mother. Just as the sculpture lures overhead is quite intimidating. I can only imagine what it's like approaching it and then standing beneath the spider's belly. Maman balances quite delicately on 8 legs, and the legs taper down to only a few inches wide. It's amazing to see how proportionally well designed this 8,000-pound piece of metal has been constructed. Louise has correctly formulated the right dimensions to ensure its stability without losing the vision she had for the piece. Now let's look at the stance of the spider. It's quite precarious. The appendages bend awkwardly as if the spider is in motion. This is something we see in Duchamp's work, who was someone Louise had connections with during the 1940s in New York. It's possible the spider is in protective stance, ready to defend or battle or face a strong wind. Any of these ideas would make sense in the context that it's a symbol for Louise's mother. Like spiders, Louise described her mother as clever, predatorial, protective, useful, intimidating, and even fearful. Louise quoted, "I shall never tire of representing her." And you can see this throughout the lifetime of her work. She first depicted the theme of spiders in the 1940s using ink, charcoal, and even crayon. So it was something that she had created two-dimensionally back in the 40s and didn't bring to a three-dimensional life in the 90s with a series of different spider sculptures, with Maman being the largest of them all. If we look underneath the spider, we can see a wire mesh egg sac holding about 17 white and gray marble eggs. So this spider is carrying new life, which is an eerie thing to think about, that there's going to be a spawn of spiders. Again, just another representation of motherhood. The body of this wire caged egg sac has this like spiraled rib cage, so it's not an actual representation of what the body of a spider would look like, because it allows you to see up into it and see that the eggs that it's containing. The use of spiral is just another theme that Louise has in her revoir. And I wonder why this piece is so affecting, because it became one of her most iconic and popular pieces from her lifetime. And it was said in the New York Times the day that Louise actually died, which was May 31st of 2010. In the article, it says, "It was her gift for universalizing her interior life as a complex spectrum of sensations that made her art so affecting." And it's true, it's not a pop culture scene. It's not just, oh, I'm going to make this gigantic spider. That there's actually quite a lot of history and meaning behind this 30-foot sculpture that can only be put outside. It can't even be put indoors unless it's an industrial size unit or building. Next, we will look at Femme Maison, version 2 of 2 from 1984. This piece is actually a photogravure, which is the process of transferring images onto printing plates. The piece is pretty minimalistic. Single lines, it's not overly detailed. What I love about Femme Maison is that this woman isn't this skinny, picture-perfect woman. Again, it's just an outline, but it's a little disproportionate. You have these wide-set hips, which again reference motherhood and being able to carry and deliver new life. You have these thick legs and tapered down into these thin knees. And these tiny little feet, it's almost as if when you look at yourself from, the waist down, your feet seem smaller than they actually are. It looks a little disproportionate. In this version, she's added a belly button, which I love. It's just a small detail, but that's where we're given life from. That's where we're connected to our mothers, and it's a great addition that she added to the version. And she has it shows that there's a belly. It's not a perfectly thin woman. And the arms are just creeping out from underneath and the top part, almost like a cactus. And they're not proportionate. It's smaller to fit the frame. Now, the only thing that we cannot see is the face, the upper body and the face of the woman, which the face is how we identify each other. So you've taken away the identity of the woman and replaced it with the home. I just wonder what struggles Louise was going through, as, it was known that she was struggling with balancing being a wife and a mother and an artist. She could have been struggling with being a female artist. Her identity, a woman at the time was supposed to be in a home, raising children, and here she was creating art. She had all these associations with male artists at the time in New York, yet no one knew her name until her later years in life. And now, she's one of the most influential female artists of modern day age. Again, Louise was a very versatile woman. The first time this composition appeared was ink on linen, and it was in 1946. We again see it as a marble sculpture. Louise's remarks on the piece is that there is a sexual loneliness. She's dignified, but she's alone, and she has no companion. The little hand is trying to call for help. She is not sexual at all. Her head does not know that she's naked. She has no hair or bosom, and because they're occupied by work. From both pieces, we've seen a theme of motherhood, and to know Louise's background, we know that these were memories that she held on to, that she felt imprisoned by, that by creating these two pieces, she was able to let go. My hope from this video is that we can look beyond one woman's lives and begin to reflect upon our own things that we might be holding on to and need to let go of.
I have been a prisoner of my memories, and my aim is to get rid of them.